Welcome back to the White Gray Black Weekly Manga Podcast. It's the podcast where we talk about all of the latest and greatest ongoing manga releases, and also shit like Rent a Girlfriend this week. My name is Bruce. I'm the captain of this ship and the White Gray Black YouTube channel. With me again this week is First Mate Gautam.
What's up, people?
Please keep in mind for this podcast, all major discussions, we will be talking spoilers. This week that means up to Rent a Girlfriend chapter 275. A manga that gets one page every year, chapter 5, that is the name of the manga, and Ranger Reject, also known as Go-Go Loser Ranger, which is an awful name, chapter 89. Before we start, let me plug a few quick things. If you want to watch us live, we are live on the White Gray Black YouTube channel on Tuesday nights. If you want to check out the VODs, they will be up on the WGB Weekly Manga Podcast channel a few days after that, hopefully sooner now, due to some things that we'll talk about at the end. If you want to listen to us on your local podcast provider, we are available on all of the big ones. That is Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Samsung Podcasts, and a few more. And we're on the RSS community if you want to directly download us to listen to us in mass. Don't forget, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to support us, first of all, head on over to the YouTube channels, give those a like, subscribe, click the little bell so that you know when we're live and when we update. Go to the podcast provider of your choice and give us a follow or a like or a subscribe, whatever option they have there. If you want to provide a little bit more support to us, there is a Patreon over at patreon.com/WGBmanga. Any type of positive reinforcement for those, go and do them. They help us a lot. And with that, let's get started with the news, although the news is pretty light this week. The big one, and this is a carryover from last week. Last week it was rumored that Kodansha was launching an official English manga reader site, and this week it is official. I believe this was announced today. But we do have a date coming May 10th. K-Manga, the Kodansha manga reader. This is only for the US, which I have heard some whinging about, which is completely acceptable. Only US, there's huge English-speaking populations outside the US. But yeah, so Kodansha has stuff like, you can see here, it's Attack on Titan, I believe that's Blue Lock, Fairy Tail, Tokyo Revengers, and Chihayafuru, which are maybe their 5 biggest series of all time. But yeah, so it's happening.
It's kind of weird that they chose like 2 series that are already ended. But also the name K-Manga is, I just don't think it's a good name because it's a little confusing.
Oh, yeah, you think?
I think it just sounds like Korean manga, right?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yes.
Because they do make manhwa, and they call like Korean dramas K-dramas. So
K-dramas, K-pop,
yeah.
K-manga, it's just manhwa. Yeah, I could see that. I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. I think if you're a manga reader and someone tells you about the K-Manga app, maybe you think it's Korean, but I don't know.
I think if I didn't know anything about it, I'd think it was for manhwa,
Yeah.
I think it was Korean, yeah. But yeah, either way, good stuff, and also not great that it's US only. I don't know the reasoning behind that. Maybe it's a licensing thing.
I think, yes. My guess is that it is probably a licensing thing. I mean, the big thing I've seen a lot of commenters on Twitter and Reddit and stuff mention is that like the French manga market is like equal to the US manga market by sales, and France is, I don't know, a quarter the population, maybe a third the population of the US, fifth the population. I don't know. I'm not going to Google that right now. Much smaller, right? But manga reading in France is really big.
It's huge, yeah.
But I would assume this is probably something to do with licensing, right? Is that there is probably, a Spanish licensor, a UK licensor, a French licensor that they would have to deal with before they just essentially coming in and dropping your app, right? Puts all those companies who pay money to get these, and people then pay those companies money to get the manga. It puts them at risk if you suddenly come in with, okay, read them for free for, $5 a month or whatever.
Yeah, we're taking your business kind of a thing. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you could literally put entire companies out of business just by launching this app. So, and the EU and European countries in general have pretty strict protections around there. So I do understand. I do understand why. I hope that they expand later on. Readers like this, I think, are generally good overall. I will say I am worried. Do you remember the Square Enix reader that came out, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago, maybe a full year ago, that was like
No.
censoring bikinis in the West and stuff that was like not even that bad and rewriting panels, and people didn't like that one. Oh, it was also like they would separate. I'm remembering specifically they published Son of Bisque Doll, right? And they would split one chapter into 3 parts, and you would like get free coins every week, and you had to like use your free coins to buy parts of the chapters to read them for free. I hope that doesn't happen here. Is all that to say?
That is so hilariously terrible. It's like they
It was
intentionally wanted to throw, you know?
it was
That's
really
wild.
awful. Yeah.
Man.
So, anyways, yeah, I mean
Uh,
that's kind of the big news this week was just confirmation of what we speculated and heard rumored last week. But May 10th, that's pretty soon. That's in, I don't know, 45 days or so, 50 days. Curious to see how it works. I mean, not all Western readers are created equal, I would say. Manga Plus is probably the best official one. The Viz Reader is okay after that. There is a Square... Is it Square Enix? Whoever publishes the Elden Ring gag manga, their reader sucks, even though that manga is good, because I have to go on that reader to read the Elden Ring manga, and you have to like go in. It's always default Japanese. You have to switch it to English, and then the reader is a little weird. But yeah,
yeah, I have to use like the arrow keys to read it. It's weird.
yeah.
Did they just like rip my anime list whole aesthetic and just copy paste? It looks
I
just
didn't
like
notice.
my anime.
I didn't notice, but you're pointing it out. It does actually look exactly like my anime list. Now that you point that out, yeah, very similar. Yeah, I mean, maybe Kodansha's this blue design is part of their Japanese aesthetic. I don't know. I will say the other thing is that this is just kind of not like there's just not really any design here. It's just kind of blue and white, which is, not that. I mean, Viz has a pretty okay design, I would say. If you go to their site, Manga Plus is the same. They have kind of a black and red aesthetic. I think Viz is kind of red and white. So yeah, who knows? I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world if your design doesn't look great, because I'm reading the manga pages. They should be full screen or nearly full screen, so I shouldn't care too much, but we'll see.
The UI matters most, like most things. As long as the UI is good. Yeah.
The UI, I mean, really the most important thing, and here's, if any of you is thinking, I want to do a manga reader, or if anyone listening works for one of these manga companies, actually the most important thing about a manga reader is that spread pages are presented as a single page. That is literally the most important thing, in my opinion.
And people can't say the technology is not there. If MangaDex did it like years before Manga Plus even came out.
I'm always
you can do it.
I'm always a bit tentative to just bring up MangaDex because it's not officially licensed. Technically it is a pirate site, hosting site, but yeah, I mean, shout out to MangaDex. Their reader is exceptionally good. You can change it. You can very easily change to vertical. You can very easily jump chapters. You can very easily have 2 pages at a time, single page at a time. Yeah, MangaDex is great. If I were any of these
accessibility options too, like if you want to pre-buffer pages, like if your internet's bad, you can actively load as many pages as you can. Like there's settings for that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because I've turned those down in the past. I think I almost always active buffer like 5 pages or so because that's just pretty standard. But yeah, I mean, it's if I was any of these readers and I knew about MangaDex, I would be actively poaching the developers and stealing their code. I'm not going to advocate for, but getting those guys on board and saying, "Hey, how did you do this? We want to put this in ours." It's not. They're not a business. They might be a business. I don't know. Actually, I won't talk too much more, but I would assume that code they developed for that reader is not proprietary or copyrighted, though it might be. So yeah, I would be actively, literally paying them millions of dollars to get that, because imagine you open up Viz Reader one day and it's like, oh, this is just the MangaDex reader, and everyone is incredibly happy. But that still doesn't fix the number one issue, which is if there's a double page spread, those are not 2 separate pages. That is a single page, and you need to have it listed that way, or the reader doesn't work. So
Yeah, honestly, just fix that. Fix that
Yeah,
first and foremost,
that's
and I
that's
think we're
literally
good.
if Viz fixed that, their reader would be great. It'd be fine. It'd be definitely past that sort of minimum bar of like it's good enough, and I don't really have to have any issues with it. It doesn't Viz doesn't do that. Manga Plus I think also doesn't do that on mobile. Maybe Manga Plus does. I don't remember now. But anyways, yeah, that's the biggest thing in my opinion, and that's actually not a reader issue. That's more of a picture upload issue. Whoever's job that is. So, but yeah, anything else to say about Kodansha manga readers in general? Anything like that?
Nah, not really. I think it'll like a lot of these services, it's new for everyone trying it, so I think it'll
Yeah.
be rough to start with.
It is. It
I
is
think
definitely good. I mean, one of the big things here is that if you wanted to go read Attack on Titan legally in the United States, you would have to go and buy every volume. There is no other way to read it, right? There's no digital way to read that. There's no digital way to read Chihaya Furu in its entirety. You would have to go and buy the copies of it. So they took some of their stuff that was being digitally hosted on other sites down a couple months ago, I believe. But this, I mean, bringing all this back, right? I can now tell someone if I say, hey, you should go read Attack on Titan because it's an amazing series. It's great. It's dramatic. It's adult in the best ways. I can say, it'll take you a month. Go pay $5 for the K Manga app and read it. And $5 to read something as opposed to how many volumes is Attack on Titan? Like 26 volumes, maybe at $10 a piece. You look at it, $350
Mm.
probably to just go out and buy it all. Yeah, it's a much better proposition. So.
Yeah, I don't see this being nearly as successful as Manga Plus. That's my final
No,
thought on
I
that.
mean, yeah, you are correct. I think based purely on the
Their
content that they
catalog.
provide, right? You've
Yeah.
essentially got their top 5 series here, and it's like Attack on Titan is enormous. Yes, Blue Lock very big. We see that on the top of the sales charts. Fairy Tail, yesterday's news,
Used
I would say. Tokyo
used to be
Revengers,
good, yeah.
yeah, Tokyo Revengers also has been very, very big, but that's also over. Chihayafuru also an incredibly large series, but also over, right? So 3 of these is Fairy Tail ended. I would assume. No, maybe
No, it's sequel series is still going,
sequel
and
series.
also
Okay, yeah,
also even then, like Tokyo Revengers, Blue Lock, both big, but I don't think I think the only thing that's huge in the West is Attack on Titan, which is over.
yeah.
Aside from that, like Jump still has Titans in the West. Like everything on their catalog is big in the West.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this just goes to show something that we've talked about a lot in the past, which is that Shueisha, the Jump sort of franchise, just owns so many of the largest franchise in manga. Kodansha, I think, is like second, third, fourth. Like they're one of the top 5 manga publishers, and yeah, like this is it. This is their top 5 series. And if you like don't
Mhm.
recognize 2 of these, which there's a lot of people who probably don't recognize maybe Chihaya Furu, Tokyo Revengers, or Fairy Tail if you're not sort of like a recent manga anime person. Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how powerful Jump is and how their series, command so much of the market. Speaking of the market, and yes, we are doing this again this week. Here's the sales for up to March 12th, so a little over a week ago. This is actually the same top 3 from last week. You'll notice that they have all got 10 days on sale. So yeah, One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen, Kaiju number 8, same top 3 here. They essentially stayed in the same order. So yeah, they're selling a lot. One Piece total for this One Piece is actually insane how many volumes it sells. Like 1.5 million in 10 days for volume 105.
Holy crap! Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Hey, it's cool seeing Iruma up there. I think
Yeah,
it's
Marimashita
uh, pretty.
Yuruma-kun. That's one I've heard you talk about that I have not read.
Yeah, I reread it not too long ago, and it does like every shonen trope, but it is somehow still incredibly charming. I don't know how to explain it. It's very very good. By the way, have you read By the Grace of the Gods?
I have not. I'm seeing it maybe for the first time here. Uh,
Yeah, I did not know this was anywhere close to popular. I have read this. And since we have a lighter schedule today, let me just
yeah.
give you a little bit of a synopsis here because you'd like to hear this. It's an isekai. Basically, this middle-aged guy, salaryman, uh, he dies, but he's a really nice dude. And the gods are like, "Hey, you're such a nice dude. We're gonna put you in this fantasy world as like a little kid." So he goes to this fantasy world as a little kid, and he tames a bunch of slimes. Right, he doesn't have any like huge ambitions to
Right.
become powerful or whatever. Um, anyway, TLDR, he meets nice people. He goes to a town and decides to work some jobs. So he uses his slimes to clean up latrines for like 20 chapters. So he's
Okay.
just cleaning shit for 20 chapters. Um, and then this lady's like, "Hey, my house has like so much shit in it because like I didn't clean up anything." And he cleans that shit. And then he opens a laundromat and cleans up everyone's bloody and sweaty clothes. And I'm like, what is this?
I don't know if I'm sold on this yet, but keep going.
I'm not trying to sell you. It's a
Yeah.
manga about a dude who reincarnates and cleans shit and then cleans sweat and then cleans blood and then
My guess
cleans
is this
more
is
shit.
pretty slice of life heavy, is what this sounds like, right? Is that it's
Yeah,
more about like, oh, cute people doing daily stuff, and oh
it is
no,
very slice of, it's actually kind of good. It is slice of life heavy, but my question is like, what made the author focus so much on the shit of it all? You know, like
I mean, yeah, I would
I
wonder. Here's my guess. My prediction
yeah,
is the author's family members maybe work in like waste disposal or something, and they want to bring more respect to it. I'm thinking of the angle of like Arakawa writing Silver Spoon, right, as a way to show that like, hey, Hokkaido is like the breadbasket of Japan, and all the meat and dairy and farming and stuff is important, and it comes from there. And so let's write a sort of slice of life from that angle. But I don't. It's a weird angle to take to make it slimes in a fantasy world, but who knows? That
yeah, because the onus of an isekai is like it's escapism, so it's usually like a
right.
fantasy people want. And Silver Spoon, of course, nobody like is dying to be a farmer, but on like an even more extreme end of the spectrum, nobody wants to clean shit. Um,
True.
and that being the power fantasy is just bizarre, and the fact that it works is even more bizarre.
Well, and you just
Anyway,
described it to me, and now I'm thinking like, how did this sell on 60,000 units in a week? That doesn't sound like this. Does not sound like the kind of thing that would sell that well. So I'm curious about if it's
I don't know.
if so. I
I
mean, yeah, I wonder if there's an anime or something that we just didn't pick up on, or maybe it's just that good. Maybe it just has picked up a
It's
following.
pretty good. Like, listen,
Yeah.
man, for an isekai, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's like comfy and fun, but
Yeah.
it is mostly about cleaning up shit.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
I'm curious. I will add it to a list
you don't
somewhere.
have to do
Maybe
that.
not my plan to read list, but it'll go on a list somewhere. Yeah, other stuff on here pretty standard. Dragon Ball Super again, Black Clover, Kusuria no Hitoro Goto, which is the apothecary?
Apothecary Diaries.
Yes. This 5-star stories is something I've never heard of. Have you ever heard of this 5-star stories here in fourth place?
No,
Yeah, so I didn't. This is
to me, it's like having a restaurant called the world's best restaurant, and everyone goes to it because of its name.
yeah,
You know?
just like good plot. The manga.
Yeah.
But apparently it's a sci-fi mecha thing, which is interesting. Mamoru Nagano. That seems like a name that I would recognize, but I don't know. I mean, 3 days on sale doing 100K is pretty big. So this is one of the
That's huge,
reasons. Yeah, one of the reasons I like looking at sales is because it's essentially a recommendation system for me, right? If I look and I go, wow, the fourth place thing is this 5-star stories. It's some mecha thing. It has 17 volumes. It sold 100,000 units in a week, which is on par with a lot of the other stuff that I like. Why haven't I heard of this? Why haven't I read it? Maybe nobody on the English side has translated it. Maybe that's why. But I would bet that something this popular, somebody's done a couple chapters of it. So yeah, I might go check that out and see what it's like. But yeah, I mean that's the sales stuff. I think top of the week, One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen, Blue Lock again, Kaiju 8, 5-star stories. Slam Dunk is still in the top 10 for the week technically. And My Hero coming in at 10th place just because back volumes sell like hotcakes for those series.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, but yeah, a lot of the same stuff here. Yeah, I'm super curious about this 5-star stories. All the pictures I see of it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a sick looking mech right there.
Oh yeah, that looks awesome.
It actually just looks like a picture of a Gundam. I don't think that's a manga drawn picture, or maybe it is. I think that's a picture of a Gundam.
That looks sick, though.
Yeah, so we wanted to go over. There was lots of anime preview stuff dropping last couple of days, to be honest. We got the
Mhm.
premiere of the Oshinoko anime, which I know you and I are big fans of. I'm gonna watch that probably, hopefully before next week. Just see what it's like. It's if there's an English version of it out, which there might not be. We looked around for it.
Yeah, I'll check it out too. I thought there would be one out because usually the scan leaders go pretty fast on that, but I don't know. There's probably a reason why there's not one
Yeah,
yet.
my it's official translation. I mean, I do know that the first episode is like 90 minutes long. I think it covers all the way up to the like big twist that happens, I don't know, 10 or 12 chapters in. Um but yeah, other than that, we got a preview for a lot of interesting anime that you and I have
Yeah.
either read or are reading or are interested to see. Solo Leveling. Let's talk about that one.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the preview. It looked mid. I think you
Yeah, I
would
saw
agree
it and it
here,
was kind of
Bruce.
like,
Yeah.
yep, that's Solo Leveling is an anime. It didn't look anything exceptionally cool. I hope that means they're holding their cards close to the chest and the animation in the later action stuff will be good. We'll
Yeah.
see.
We didn't really get any action scenes. But
Right.
yeah, it looked mid because the appeal of solo leveling is really the art. It
It's all
is
in the art. Yep.
reading solo leveling is like drinking a beer. It's empty calories, but it's fun.
Yeah. It's like watching a bad Marvel movie. It's not like watching
Yeah.
a good Marvel movie. It's like watching a bad Marvel. It's like, is it fun? Yeah, it is still fun. Are the fights and special effects cool? Yes. Is it worthwhile outside of either of those things in artistic visual value? Not really.
Will I remember major plot points 3 months from now? Probably not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I don't think we ever talked about solo leveling on the podcast because I think it ended right before we started the podcast. But
Yeah,
um,
I think so.
I think I dropped it maybe 30 or 40 chapters from the end because it just,
Oh, did you?
yeah, I never finished it. I maybe read the very last chapter when it came out because you can just do that because the plot is nonsense and doesn't really matter. But you read all of it, right?
Yeah, I finished it.
Yeah.
I haven't read the epilogue stuff that came out,
Right,
but
and there's actually
I
new chapters being published with a different artist because I believe the artist for solo leveling passed away sometime last year.
it
So
looks very good still. The new
that's
artist
good.
they got was it captured the style really well, but I haven't read enough to see them flex. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, and so solo leveling is a Korean manhwa based on a Korean light novel series. I believe
Hmm.
that's correct.
That is
So
correct. Yeah.
I mean, all of my complaints come from the writing from the light novel. I would assume, although I know that the manhwa manga adaptations will often change those things. But yeah, I mean, it's just
The artist carried it, right? Like,
absolutely.
the,
I mean, you read it
yeah,
because it's like, oh, he's gonna do cool stuff. I mean, it was power fantasy wish fulfillment. Dude is strong and nobody realizes it, and then someone who does realize it, he's actually even stronger. He's got powers of darkness. He's a rogue. And we were talking about this earlier. One of the issues I have with it is like, okay, you're gonna give me a power fantasy. Cool, I'm down with that. Give me the power fantasy of being, oh, I'm the best assassin. I'm not a cool rogue, or oh, I'm a warlock with dark magic. Solo leveling does both. The main character
yeah,
essentially is the best rogue with two daggers, with the two best daggers in the world, and he's a warlock and he's a summoner. He's like three or four different D&D fantasy classes at the same time, and the best version of all of them, and everyone else doesn't have that many powers, and it's fun. I hope the anime is well animated to where it is still fun. I think it'll be a hit if it is. It has a. We were talking about this. It has a really interesting start. I think the first maybe like 8 to 10 chapters I think are really good for a sort of power fantasy reverse. It's not a reverse isekai. It's fantasy, I guess, but
yeah. It's just like he gets an awakening, and then his personality changes, and his body
right, right.
changes. Yeah,
Yeah,
so he becomes a
basically
different person.
you'll
Yeah.
notice if you watch the preview, there's sort of the nerdy looking main character guy, and at the very end you see like, oh, this buff tall guy who looks totally different. That's the same character. Spoilers. Pretty much, I think the intro is good until he sort of goes dark and brooding because he just flips his personality for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, it's kind of strange actually because his body completely changes. Sure, now he's a Chad, but like I swear if someone who is out of shape just completely turned ripped and sexy the next day, I don't think they will act like a Chad the very next day, but he does instantly. Like he's
Yeah.
smooth. He's smooth
My
with it after it.
my guess with that is that because it's adapted from a light novel, my guess is that's the end of the first light novel and the start of the second, and so people don't notice, right? You go, oh yeah, he was getting ripped at the end of the last one. Oh, now he's a totally cool guy because we're in chapter 2 or volume 2 or whatever. So that'd be my guess.
The thing is, in the source, like in everything, he just wakes up in a hospital bed ripped, right? Like, and the nurse is like, "Oh, whoa, who's that hottie?"
I thought that he trained, because didn't he gets like missions that are like, oh, run 10 kilometers and do 100 sit-ups.
He does all that. He does train for rewards, but I think he's innately ripped.
Does he just wake up ripped? Okay, maybe he does. I don't. It's been maybe 3 or 4 years since I started reading it now, but
I'm fairly certain he just wakes up ripped in a hospital.
I would not doubt it. That sounds more correct. We also got Mashal. Speaking of ripped, we got a Mashal anime preview.
It looked good. It looked good.
Yeah, looks fine. Mashal is something I think is more about the gag than the action, although the action should be hopefully good. But yeah, I mean, I think Mashal will be pretty big this season or next season, whenever it's airing. I think Mashal will be pretty big. It's a Jump property. It's funny. It's legitimately funny. It is good action. It's goofy. It kind of tickles the same itch that Harry Potter and stuff like that does, while paying tribute to it and making fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Harry Potter meets One Punch Man.
Yes, that's exactly the way to put it. Harry Potter meets One Punch Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
finally we had a Kaiju 8 preview, right? Actually, it's our second
short preview, and then a reveal of some of the character designs. This is the one I probably had the most issue with. The character designs do not look very good, in my opinion. I think it's an opinion shared by a lot of people. They look fine. I would say again, I've mentioned this at least 3 or 4 times on the podcast. When you are adapting something where the biggest draw is the art, you have a much harder job than adapting something that has other draws. And Kaiju number 8, it has a really strong start. I think the first 20 or 30 chapters of it are really good. It goes pretty far downhill after that. I would say recent chapters have been kind of generic. I would say it's been generic for maybe a year or year and a half now. So it's bi-weekly, so that's only maybe 30 chapters, but yeah. But it's action, it's art. Its art is still really good. I still really like its art. I really like its character designs, and I don't think the anime is quite up to the quality that the manga character designs are. So I think they've taken sort of a detailed, interesting kind of bold line, very similar to My Hero visual style that the author of Kaiju 8 has, and made it kind of dumbed it down into an anime style. So I'm not a huge fan. It doesn't ruin the series for me. It could still be good, but I think season 1 of this show will be good because that's the best part of the story writing wise. But how do you feel about Kaiju 8?
It is the same as Solo Leveling. It has effectively no plot, and it's just fighting. But it's fun.
Yeah.
You just read it for the fighting. That's all you need.
It did have a little bit of plot to start, but recently there is literally no plot. The plot is who is fighting who and how do they beat them. And it's been like that for, like I said, like probably 18 months it's been like that. So
you know what? I'm fine with that. It knows what it is, right? I love the Doom type of power fantasy, like where the main character just punches the monitor explaining the plot in the face.
Yeah.
And it just goes on a rampage. I'm fine if you don't want to write a story and you just want to go buck wild. Go for it, and I'm here for it. It exists in the space for a reason, and it's doing well for a reason. But with that said, I am less invested. I don't know why.
Yeah, if my friends are watching Kaiju 8, I'll hop in for an episode. I don't really have any desire to reconsume that story. Doesn't feel like there's a reason to when I think the art is so good. Again, kind of tying it back, but like if you've read it and the art is really good, and one of the reasons to do an anime adaptation is to sort of make the art flow and movement and add music and stuff. I don't know if this is going to do that for Kaiju 8, for me at least. I think more people are going to get into it though, because I do think the start is strong. I think it's pretty. I think the way it starts sort of eschews some of the shonen tropes, right? Like the main character here is like what 33 or 30 or something. So
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. I think kaiju movies aren't nearly as popular or iconic here.
that's true. That is more of a
And
Japan thing. But I mean, I don't know. I
it
mean,
really depends on the actor.
Godzilla versus
At the
King
end of the
Kong
day,
made, I think, $1 billion. I think all the Godzilla movies made a lot of money. So it's not something we're unfamiliar with. What's the robot? What's the actual robot fighting one? Pacific Rim. Those movies also made a lot of money. So
no, they were bombs.
the first one
Unfortunately,
made money, right? The second one
no,
was bad.
the first one was a bomb. I loved the first one, but it was a financial failure of a movie. Guillermo del Toro even voiced his disappointment at how badly it did in the box office.
Oh yeah. I mean, it did okay. Its budget
It
was
did
200
not.
million. It made 411 million. So that's not bad.
Yeah,
If you double your
that is a
budget,
that's a net negative for how much marketing, everything else it had. Yeah, it was just a loss later. Pacific Rim, unfortunately, did not do well. As much as I had fun with it, I love that movie.
yeah,
Stupid as
that's
shit.
definitely the best version of a live action Evangelion big mechs we've ever gotten.
Yeah,
I do wish it had done better because I wish it had spun more spin-offs. But
yeah, me too. But nah, here we are. At least we had it. At least someone dared to make it. I don't think we'll ever see anything
quite
similar
like it
to
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be a couple of years. I think someone will try something again, but we'll see. Speaking of spin-offs, let's spin off into let's just spin the podcast off into the garbage. It's Rent a Girlfriend, chapter 275.
God, he's on her like white on rice.
In the past, and I think it's been maybe 4 or 5 months, one of the first episodes we recorded, I'm a Rent a Girlfriend apologist, I will say. I think Rent a
Yeah, you
Girlfriend
are.
is soap opera. It's melodramatic. That is what it is intended to be. The people who don't like it don't understand that, or they do understand it and they don't like that kind of thing. There was a whole arc that everyone hated where they like go on a trip to this Hawaiian's resort, and like all the girls who are involved with him go, and there's all this stuff going on. Man, my nose is just itching today. And I was pretty apologetic. I was pretty not as down on that arc as everyone else was. Everyone else was like, this is garbage. It's spinning the wheels. I didn't think so. I thought that was actually pretty decent progress. I thought it was the best kind of melodrama where his ex is trying to manipulate his family into getting him to reveal the truth about his rent-a-girlfriend isn't his real girlfriend, right? It felt like a big head of a lot of different plot points coming together. So I liked that arc. This arc is garbage. This arc is terrible. Essentially what happened is they get back from resort, blah, 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 chapters happen. The way that the two MCs know each other is they live in the same building, right? They're neighbors. That's how they met. An earthquake happens, and their building has to be shut down. So what happens is main girl owns her grandmother's house. Her grandmother passes away earlier in the story, right? That's a really good arc if you want to talk about good and bad arcs of this story. And so she invites the main guy and one of the other girls who lives in their building to live with her temporarily. And she literally says, I don't remember if she says it to the other girl or to the main guy, but is like, hey, we'll test this out. And if you pass my test, I'll be more into you or something. Anyways, a bunch of garbage shit happens. There's literally been maybe 3 separate chapters where the MC has just thought about bathing in the same bathwater as the main girl. And that's the whole chapter. I think that has been 2 of the last 20 chapters has just been that. So it's pretty garbage. I want you to keep in mind all of this awkward, God, it's just going to be me complaining for the next 5 minutes. So if you want to skip ahead, go ahead and do that. Man, it's just so bad now. Things have moved backwards. I think he just will spend chapters like, she's so hot and we're in the same room. We're in the same house. It's so crazy. She's so hot. Now, it's always been filled with the Shiso hotlines, but like, keep in mind, back in that Hawaiian resort vacation arc that I mentioned, these two kissed, and she kissed him. And so that felt like a big thing. And now it's like, wow, I can't even be in the same room as you because I'm so awkward. And these people are like 22, 21, they're in college. It's just garbage. Anyways, this whole chapter, they're in a loading, like a storage unit. They go in there. I think another earthquake happens. Fucking Japanese earthquakes, man. And he like falls on her, and they have like nosy neighbors walking by, and they're like, oh no, if that nosy neighbor sees us, that would be bad.
Are they not dating?
No, they are not dating. 275 chapters, they are not dating. Anyways, I'll click through this. This is the whole chapter. I almost only included 2 pictures. I almost only included like him here and then their faces. That's the whole fucking chapter. Like, I'll click through these. She's like, it's fine. You can lean on me. You can't support yourself. And he like lays on her. And then he's like, oh my gosh, oh, I'm laying on her. And then, yeah, that's the whole chapter. It's garbage.
So are these characters...
I will apologize. Like, it's not... The series overall is not as bad as people say. It is meant to be this kind of melodrama and stuff, but this chapter in particular, this might be actually the worst chapter of this series that has ever dropped. Chapter 275 of Kanojo Okarimasu, Rent-A-Girlfriend. It might be the worst chapter of the series. I think it's worse than the mental image cuckoldry that happened that kind of went meme viral, where he's like in the water imagining her getting boned by another guy. Like, that made sense in the story. There's context to that, and I think that while goofy and memeable made sense of the story, this is just a garbage chapter. The whole chapter is these two people trapped in this box. He's trying to not fall on her. She's like, it's okay, you fall on me. He falls on her. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm on top of her. The chapter ends. That's it. That's the whole fucking chapter. It's garbage. I cannot get over how bad this chapter was. The series has not been good the past 6 months almost, probably. It's not been great.
You know what, Bruce? It sounds like the haters were right this whole time, and maybe it just took you a bit to become a hater too.
I will still play the apologist role. The haters were not right when they were saying their hated things. The haters have been right the last 6 months. This series has not been good recently. But mainly because I would say up until the big Hawaiians vacation arc that, again, ended in the main girl going and kissing the main guy to show his family that, yes, they are dating, but she actually wanted to, and it was good. All of that stuff, there was a solid, straight upward trajectory of character and relationship development to the story. It would meander chapter to chapter sometimes, but overall, arc to arc, it felt like these characters are getting closer. These characters are getting closer to dating. These characters like each other more. These characters are more honest with each other. They kiss. They have more physical, tender moments, blah, blah, blah. Since they've gotten back from that arc, it's been probably about a year now since that happened, they have moved backwards, and I think that is mainly what bothers me. And I think a lot of the complainers point out that, oh, it's always moved backwards. And it's like I said, it would go sort of back and forth chapter to chapter sometimes, but it never felt to me like the arcs were moving backwards, like the overall character progression was not moving towards a more solidified, solid, assured relationship between these two. And now it does. Like, now it just, like, the most interesting thing to happen in the story was one of these people should die. Like, I'm fully an advocate of, like, just kill one of these people. It would be so good.
You know what? Kill them both and just end it. That sounds cool.
Yeah, because you know what? The side characters are better, to be honest. Anyways, that's my tirade on this chapter. It's this chapter in particular is absolute. I mean, you want to talk about filler? This is an idea that should have taken 4 panels, maybe 3 pages max, and it's a whole 19-page chapter.
So are the characters intentionally written to be incredibly unlikable, or is that just writing oopsie that made that happen?
The main guy kind of is. Not necessarily unlikable. He's kind of supposed to be pitiable, I would say, right? He's the kind of he's this kind of college loner, jerk off in his room type guy. Like that's who his character is. But he's still like a good guy and supposed to be like that. The biggest issue with the main girl with Chizuru is essentially that someone did the math, and she's taken the main guy over the past. I think they've known each other for like 18 months, in maybe 2 years in the story now. She's taken like, I think someone did the math, and it's like $200,000 from this guy from dates, right?
She's still accepting money?
So, okay, one positive note on the recent arcs: she has not accepted money from him for a date since they've gotten back from Hawaiians. Maybe once, but not often. So the money exchanging hands has not been a part of the story recently. It gets a very small kudos from me for that, because that was very problematic. It's not super problematic,
still problematic. No, it is. If she has romantic feelings for him, that's problematic. Yeah, I don't know. She sounds awful. He actually pisses me off just from hearing that.
Yeah.
I don't feel pity. I feel more annoyed hearing that.
He is more of an annoying type character, and he's been exceptionally annoying. Like I said, imagine like the girl you like invites her to live with you because both of your places were unlivable because of a earthquake. Now imagine just sitting in your room thinking like, oh my god, she's so hot. What do I do? That's her door opening. She's so hot. She's standing out there. She's right there. She's so hot. That's what the chapters of this have been like recently. It's literally just the MC sitting in his room or talking to her or talking with someone else about like, oh my god, she's so hot. She's right there. We're living together. Am I failing? Am I failing this test? It's like, bro, I hope you are.
This main character is like, I saw like a JCS criminology video about this dude who like stole a bunch of money from his family, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like this kid, and just spent it on an OnlyFans person. And this kid is that guy.
Yes.
And somehow Reichi's doing a good job of writing him to be just as pathetic as that dude who stole money from his family is, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
wild.
Those of you, if you're in the comments or whatever, who have read this, he is not wholly unredeemable, right? Something that I liked about the series initially is one of the first things, I think it's maybe the end of the first major arc, is like, you know, he pays for her to go on a date on like a boat trip with a club or with his friends or something, and she falls and he jumps into the water to save her, right? And he swims her to shore, and it's like, okay, that's like a good redeemable thing for your main character to do, right? Jump in to save a girl who fell off a boat, swim to shore. Cool. That's like a good thing. And he does a lot of those things, right? He like helps her produce a movie by like doing a lot of the work behind it. He like, in like maybe the best part of the story, her grandmother is dying, her grandmother who raised her. And he like finds a way to get the movie to her grandmother to see right before she dies. And it's like, that's good shit. There is good shit in Rent-A-Girlfriend. It is not all bad. But for the past year or so, it has been all bad. So I will not excuse the recent things that have happened. I hope that it is, I hope that it is only a down arc and that after this it gets better. And that way, again, I continue to play the part of a Rent-A-Girlfriend apologist. I do not think this series overall is as bad as people say it is. I do think recently it has been as bad or worse as people say it is. So we'll see. If it turns out that the Living Together arc just turns out, oh, that was just a bad arc, you know, it's 30 chapters or whatever, move past it, get through it and move past it, then maybe I can still suggest this to people, but who knows? It might just be awful. This guy might milk this for another 200 chapters and it could be irredeemable.
See, the problem is the context behind him just being freakishly obsessed with her and spending all of his money to just go on superficial dates with her makes his redeeming qualities, makes him just kind of sound like a simp. Like,
there's not a single word that describes the main character of Rent-A-Girlfriend more than simp. He is the hyper version of a simp in this story. There's really no other way to put it. He essentially sees this girl, he rents her once, is like, this is the hottest girl I have ever seen. I am desperately in love with her. My whole life is about getting this girl to like me, and that's the story. He's just simp. He's just a simp. Like,
yeah, that's wild. But hey, good for you, Reichi. I think he wants to keep this going so he can keep drawing whatever the girl's name is.
Yeah,
What is it?
Chizuru. Yeah,
Chizuru.
Chizuru
Yeah.
Mizuhara. Yeah, I saw. Speaking briefly about anime adaptations, I saw a lot of people up in arms because this got a season 3 announcement or preview or trailer or something recently. I think announcement. And people were like, "This is a garbage series. Why is this getting 3 seasons?" And the answer is, it's got cute girls and it makes a fuck ton of money off of the selling shit for those cute
people
girls.
are dumb.
So, yeah,
Don't
this is a
freak out
huge.
that
Yeah,
something got an adaptation.
yeah.
It's like people are looking for things to be angry about for no reason. No, it's fine.
Well,
Let it
and
get
you're gonna find
it
it in
an
this series, but yeah.
Yeah.
This is not. You're not going to see Rent a Girlfriend show up very often in our little top 10 recap, but I would bet if you went by how much money a property makes, this probably shows up in top 10s more often, right? Like this, because this is selling. I mean, this is selling, body pillows, stickers, clothes, probably stuff like that. Like again, it's hot anime girls, cute anime girls, whatever you want to say. Like that's the selling angle of the products here. Even because even in season 1, there's like a girl who like doesn't show up, like shows up once, I think, in season 1, maybe for 1 or 2 episodes, and she was like huge part of the marketing, seemed to be equal to the other girls, blah blah blah. Yeah. Anyways, this makes money off of well drawn girls, and I do like Reiji's art. I won't ever hit him for that one, but I'm gonna get this shit off my screen. Speaking of art, tell me about your manga this week.
Oh right, yeah. It's it's another shitpost of a manga. It's a manga world that gets 1 page every year. So every year it's been 5 years now.
I'm noticing a trend of you bringing shitpost manga. And
Yeah,
maybe
it's
3 weeks in a row now, 4 weeks.
I think 2, right? I don't remember what was.
You brought Witch Watch shitpost chapter 100 last week, and maybe Mashal or something before that, which is kind of a
yeah. I
big
guess
shitpost,
so.
but...
I guess I'm in a mood. I don't know. I guess I'm going through a phase. But yeah, regardless. Honestly, there's nothing to say here. It is a manga that releases 1 page every year. It is funny. It's stupid. And yeah, you'll see it again next year.
Yeah.
If you want to know about it, read the 1 page.
I mean, essentially, yeah, big spoilers. This is a year's worth of manga on screen right now. So
yeah, it really doesn't have a plot. It's just a bunch of jokes. And yeah, so it really can't be described in any way, in my opinion. So just go ahead and read it. You'll do it more justice doing that.
Yeah, it seems goofy. Let's do a little spin-off question here. How do you feel? Tell me about Twitter manga. How do you feel about people who are posting a page a day, a couple pages a day, a couple pages a week on Twitter? We've seen some larger series catch on in this way, right? I think.
Yeah. A lot of stuff like Tomo-chan.
Tomo-chan is one of them. What's the one where the girl plays the different versions of herself for the high school guy? What am I thinking? What's that called?
Oh, Pseudo Harem.
Yeah, Pseudo Harem. Yeah. That's one I believe that one started on Twitter.
And then there's like Musu no Telepathy, which was running at the same time as Tomo when they were dropping chapters. It was just as fake.
Yeah, there's oh god, what was the one? I only ever saw a couple chapters of it, but it was like, this raggedy elf is gonna make you happy or something like that.
Oh yeah, that one just a different kind of fetish thing with good art.
Yeah, it was absolutely just a fetish thing, but that also got extremely popular on Reddit and Twitter, at least in the West here. Do you think that Twitter is a good way for an author to practice their craft? Do you think it's a good way for them to get publicized, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I would. If I was an artist, I'd throw everything on Twitter, because the worst thing that could happen is that nobody sees it. The best thing is that it blows up, right? It's free.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd say in terms of advertising, Twitter's probably the best of it. You get eyes on it. You get and if you go to one of these pitch meetings and your manga gets rejected, you can literally prove them wrong in the public eye by being popular on Twitter. And
that's true. Yeah,
get published.
Yeah, I mean, I think for all Twitter's recent problems and changes, I do think it is a pretty decent way to advertise yourself or your work, be it art. I know that, I mean, I follow, because I'm into manga and art and things like that, I follow a lot of artists on Twitter, and they like other artists' work who I never would have seen if I didn't follow that artist. So there's this kind of web of interactivity of groups and stuff that I think is good, essentially, right? I mean, if you get, if there's one big or medium manga artist likes your, couple of pages that you drew and posted on Twitter, now maybe all their followers saw it. Maybe now you've got more followers. Yeah, it's kind of a larger question in content creation, advertisement, I guess you would say, which I know a little bit about because I've failed at it miserably in the past. But hey, the listens for our podcast are slowly going up a little bit. Not
imagine if they were going
not
down.
Week over week, but yeah.
Yeah. So but the thing is, be careful following too many artists on Twitter because eventually your feed is just going to be hentai.
Yes.
That's a rabbit hole.
Be careful. Wink, wink. You don't want to follow too many. You don't want your Twitter thread to be hentai. Wink, wink. Yeah.
It does get crazy, bro.
I mean, I think today or yesterday I was just like scrolling, and normally it's the artists I follow on my like personal account. It's less manga artists and more kind of general artists. I was scrolling and it was just, it was just literally hentai showed up, and it was like uncensored, not blocked by, and I was just like, what? So yeah, so that will happen.
Yeah, but it's just like I'm fine if it's at home, right? But if I'm in a public space, if I'm on the bus or something, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was like picking up prescriptions or something like in the line at CVS, and I'm scrolling and I'm like, I think I just saw full penetration like art on my timeline. This is not a problem I had run into before I followed manga and artists is sort of in similar circles. So take that as you will.
Oh, that's great.
It is degenerates. Speaking of degenerates.
No,
that one's not going to work.
Go on, Mark. Speaking of.
Speaking.
Oh shit! I don't have one.
Speaking of prescriptions. No.
Okay, there you go.
Speaking of death scrolling and death, let's talk about a series that's probably about to die. Let's talk about Ginka and Luna. This chapter, I didn't bring a picture of it. I implore you to go check out and read this series and read this chapter. This was probably the best chapter Ginka and Luna's ever had. I think maybe past the first chapter or two. I really like what they've done here.
It was actually one of the better shonen this week.
I think so too, yeah. I think it was maybe the top 2 or 3 chapters this week for me.
Read the last chapter too. I thought that was very strong as well because it's a setup for this one.
Right, yeah. The two kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think this chapter was so rushed because it's getting the axe. And it was a little bit sloppy, but it was emotionally resonant, even though it was rushed, it's just a feat to do that, in my opinion.
I think so too. Yeah,
it's great. It was awesome. Great chapter.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely says something when you and I and most everybody knows, like, yeah, this is getting the can. It's not selling well. It's not that popular. We read it week to week, and I'm kind of up and down on it. It's like it does some things really well and other things not well. Its pacing obviously has been a huge issue. But then to like go and lay down this sort of like you said, like emotionally resonant, well written, well executed, cool art, good action chapter like this. This Ginka Luna is going to be canceled. You're right. Probably max a month. Maybe 6 weeks. Yeah. I am super, super curious. This author's next thing, I hope is a hit. I think that they were actually really close with Ginka and Luna. I don't think they made too many big missteps. I do think the missteps they made were large. I'm trying to, how do I put this? The
it's
missteps,
all pacing, right?
It is. Primarily, the one big misstep they made was pacing, and I think that changes the whole feeling of a manga in a way that can absolutely turn groups of people on or off, right? Because if you're already kind of on the fence and the pacing is bad, you're just going to drop it. If you're saying, well, I like some things but not other things, and the pacing is bad, you're going to drop it. But if you're interested and the pacing is good and it moves in a good way and it draws you from one chapter to the next, then you're going to be like, well, I'm not totally in, but its pacing is good, so I'm going to keep reading because it's drawn me to the next chapter. And that's kind of what Ginka and Luna didn't have. It also maybe
Yeah,
did a, but go ahead.
reading it was like a feeling of whiplash, right?
It was
I
just
think
a
that was the
whirlwind
biggest pressure.
of
Yeah,
stuff, right?
especially if you don't remember the last week. It so much stuff happens in every
Right.
chapter that if you don't remember parts of last week, you missed them doing like five different things, like
Yeah,
huge things.
no lie, the first like 4 chapters of this felt like it could have been an entire uh, like an entire season of the anime, right? Because
Mhm.
in chapter 1 they like, the two main characters meet, there's magic, they do the growth split, there's a fight. In chapter 2 they like get to a town, meet a new girl, accept a job, do some fighting. In chapter 3 they like go underground, fight through some other stuff, meet another girl. I think like by the end of chapter 4 you had met like 4 or 5 new characters. They had gone through like 3 different quests. They had moved, hundreds of miles from where the story started through a town and then through an underground place in like 4 chapters, which
Yeah.
should have been like, 2 volumes probably, right? Should have been like 12 to 16 chapters that they did that. Um, yeah, I do understand the author's need to want to like go quick because you don't want to go too slow because I do think a lot of canceled manga go too slow. Um, I think it's an easier problem to fix to slow things down than it is to speed things up. So again, yeah, really looking forward to the author's next work. I do think their next work will hopefully be improved and better. I hope that they have the right feedback from Ginka and Luna to improve really just their pacing, because I think a better paced Ginka and Luna is a hit. There's not Mashal a little bit kind of hits on the high fantasy magic angle, but there's really not another high fantasy magic stuff. Maybe Black Clover, kind of, but that's more of just a battle shonen.
Mhm.
I think there's a space on Jump for something like this that's just sort of high fantasy magic. I mean, female led is another thing that I think it has going for it. I think it has a. I think Luna's a really good character, like in general, especially this last chapter. So yeah, gonna miss this one when it's gone. Understandably why it's canceled. Definitely don't think it necessarily deserves to keep going, although I do hope it does. But yeah,
Yeah, you know what? At this point, I'd be happy to see it keep going, but I'm satisfied with how the author ended it.
yeah,
And you know what? I was just thinking, and I messaged you, Bruce, about this after I read it. Is if this series had run for a long time, and this was the conclusion,
yeah,
or this was close to the conclusion, I think it would have hit way harder.
so good. Yeah,
And like that's how good I thought these last two chapters were.
yeah,
I think this would have been like killer if the
yeah,
author had gotten to tell the full story.
yeah. And I still think it was good in the 25 chapters or whatever that we got.
Yeah,
Speaking of new series, Ichinose is another one I just wanted to briefly mention. The Ichinose family's Deadly Sins. That's on
bruh.
chapter 16 or 17, I want to say. It has literally been, I think, 3 or 4 twists in a row for this series. And it's wild. I'm loving it, even though I didn't love the most recent twist. I don't think that it is going to stop twisting there. So I think it's okay if I don't like it. So
Yeah, I think it really does feel like is it Tizen 5? Is that the author? Um
yes,
it feels like Tizen 5 is just poking fun at people trying to predict the twist.
quite
So people
possibly.
like because it went from a time loop twist to a you're in a coma twist.
Right. And I don't
And
love that. I don't love
yeah,
it's all in your mind twists unless it it's
you're played
kind of
out,
one of those
right?
things that's been done, and so it's one of the first kind of guesses of like, oh, weird stuff is happening. Well, maybe it's all in your mind. Yeah, he's
Well,
apparently
it's
yeah.
so yeah, it's so played out that it's like a joke. It's like nobody would ever do this anymore
Hmm.
because like people call that for everything. It's like, oh, it's all in your head. So I don't think that's the final. It can't be in my head. It
Yeah,
can't be the
I am
final. But
still guessing. So we haven't, other than the sort of time loop angle, which you could kind of count as sci-fi fantasy, um, because of the way that Takapi's went, right? Taizen's 5 previous thing, that was heavily sci-fi quote / magic based, right? My guess is we are still definitely going to get a fantasy sci-fi big element that's more core to the plot eventually. That isn't just it's a time loop, because I think there will be some kind of fantasy sci-fi explanation of it's a time loop because of this. It's happening because this happened, or there's a alien or there's a fantasy thing or something.
Yeah,
I think
it's
we're
funny
still
you say
heading
alien.
there. So
I was literally gonna say it's like, yeah, next twist is like they're all in alien incubators, and this is all kind of a Matrix-esque dream.
it would not surprise me if the next chapter did
Yeah.
that. It would not because yeah, I mean, you mentioned that the most recent chapter had the main character. Oh, it's all in your mind. You're in a, you were what was it? You were hurt by the car wreck and you've been in a coma for 4 years or 5 years or whatever.
Mhm.
But neither of us buy that because we got sort
Yeah.
of a full arc of the mom slash
Right.
wife. Um, we got like a full arc from her point of view 2 or 3 chapters ago. So it would be weird for the MC. He's like a 14-year-old boy. If he's in a coma, how does he have all these memories about his mom? There's something else is coming, right? So which is why even though it's kind of like, oh, I don't love the it's all in your mind angle. I'm okay with it because I don't. That's not the final twist, right? There's been 3 in the 3 or 4 chapters before. There's going to be more coming up. It is not fully explained, so I'm here for the ride.
Yeah, yeah. I'm out of guesses for now because I have no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah, at this
It,
point,
it feels like that's what Tyson 5 wants, though, so that's perfect.
I think so. Yeah, I know that we spent the first couple times we talked about this making predictions on it. I think that's done. I don't think we can make predictions here until we're closer to the end because anything could happen. It's too wild.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of too wild, let's talk about our maybe one of our favorite running series. Let's talk about Ranger Reject, also known as Go Go Loser Ranger, which is a terrible name, so I'm going to call it Ranger Reject. What a great series, and this arc has been also wild and crazy and good.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And I think when we started this, we thought of Ranger Reject as flawed but with a lot of promise because it was flawed with a lot of promise when we were reading it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh at the moment, it's the most interesting it's ever been. I
It
think it's
is.
great.
It's definitely one of the things. It actually is maybe the thing I look forward to reading. The past 2 months, I would say it's the thing I want to read the next chapter of as soon as I finish it, like week to week. For a while there, it was Dan to Dan. Dan to Dan's in an action scene, so I still do want to read it. But this is the thing it's got the mystery, it's got the intrigue, it's a spy story essentially. So yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just been really good. Why don't you give me a little plot recap of where we are in the story now, up to chapter 89?
Oh, sure. So for my plot recap, go to Amazon Prime and watch The Boys season 3. And there you go. Yeah, so what happens is The Boys season 3. The last chapter, someone films the Red Ranger having a total freak out and ripping off a dude's arm for disagreeing with him or calling him shit. And in a very Homelander-esque move, if you guys have seen that show. And it's posted online, and in this chapter, public outcry is insane because people don't want to idolize a man who freaks out and rips off a person's arm.
Right, and this is all kind of set
yeah.
up by the the Invader Rights
Invaders'
Association.
Rights Association.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now they canceled. The Rangers have canceled their weekly Invader show
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah, here in this, he shows him taking it down. Yeah, so they did this every week for, I don't remember how many years they said, like 12 years or something, or 5 years. Like a
I think
long ass time, right?
Yeah, they've done it for 12 years, and before that, they had like older Rangers apparently that were omitted from history.
Yeah, let's save that to the end because there's something's going on with that hasn't been explained that is interesting. But yeah, I mean, essentially, you can see here, this is, I think, Red Ranger getting hit by a can because everyone's afraid of him. They go and they try to do their little Sunday show, which is kind of like I don't know if you've ever been to like a Six Flags or a thing where they do like the Batman show and it's a big performance and stunts and stuff. They kind of do that, but it's a little more real. But yeah, I mean, they get booed off. They get a can thrown at them and it's canceled, like Adam was saying. So,
You want to hear my theory? I don't even know if this is like been talked about. Probably, but
let's
I
hear it
think
then.
Red Ranger is an invader.
Do you think he's an executive, probably, or?
I'm not sure. I think he's an invader because he didn't die, and I think it's the same one who got stabbed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, what, 5 or 6 chapters ago, maybe a couple more?
Yeah,
D,
stabbed him.
our main character. I mean, like stabbed him in the chest, cut fully through his torso. Like any man would die with that kind of wound. He falls over, and Red Ranger is just back, and nobody talks about it like anything happened. So that's weird. I think that's a good guess. I do think that Red could be an executive or an invader of some kind.
Yeah, I think he just like went power hungry, created this association, and all the other invaders are also bad guys, but there's like this weird power struggle thing.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
we're this looking at this panel, right? Another thing that was revealed was that Usakobo and her dad, who are the sort of main characters of the Ranger Rights Association, apparently after the arc that we didn't think was very good, the garage training whatever arc, this bird exec shows up whose name I don't remember. But apparently they helped its last little bird escape and are sort of regrowing it. That was part of its thing, is that it produced all these little birds, and if one of them survived, the executive survived, and it could regrow. Usakobo apparently guided that bird out, took the executive to her dad, and they've been regrowing it. And did I get the right one? No. Apparently all these executives are like working with the Invader Rights Association to resummon, what did they call it? Like Ultra Mega Beast or something. Ultra Mega Invader, right? It had the generic kind of Power Rangers
the
Sentai name.
Ultra Death Invader or something like that. Yeah.
Right, something like that.
Something, yeah.
But yeah, so that's, I mean, it's really interesting. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's essentially, this is like a spy series, right? This is like an undercover agent working for two kind of rival, like governments almost, right? Superpowers, right? I mean, the executives are a superpower. The Rangers are a superpower. They're both wrong, but who's more wrong or who's more right? That's kind of part of the fun of reading it. Super interesting. Do you know what this is in Usukubo's hands here that she's hiding? This little ball in the panel.
Yeah, what is that? Is that like an eyeball, like an artificial eyeball or something?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like one of the Ranger weapons or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's a lot of just hidden stuff in here that has been planted that hasn't been brought up. Like we mentioned, I'll bring it up now. The Usukubo's dad mentioned to one of the Rangers, was it Green Ranger, I think, who he met? No, it was one of the other Rangers maybe, but they like mentioned like an old Power Rangers series, right? That they were both a fan of, but one of them was like, "Oh, but you don't get it, or you're not representing it correctly, or something."
So that's Red, and Red ripped off.
It was Red. That's what happened. Yeah. And yeah, so there's something going on with the like old Ranger show / was it real / maybe it's Invaders / Executive. Who knows? There's something going on with that I can't figure out, that I think is going to become clear soon or eventually. We do still have real Sakurama out there somewhere, doing something, working somehow. I don't actually know what. I mean, he is present, but he has not been present recently. There's just a lot of cool, like, I don't know. I mean, it literally is the best way I can, sell it to somebody, is like, it's like the best spy series I've ever read in manga for sure. There aren't a whole lot of spy series that I really know about. I mean, Spy Family's not really a spy series. It's more of kind of slice of life, fun family stuff. This is like
series.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
this last chapter.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and the thing is that it's really good. It has really good characters and really good plot. The plot, since the kind of one bad arc has turned around. This also has an anime announcement. Hopefully this is going to be really big when the anime comes, because I want us to see success. It's also from the author of Quintessential Quintuplets, which is like one of the best selling. I think Quintessential Quintuplets is like in the top 50 best selling manga of all time. Like that, it's an incredible selling series. So, Negi Haruba's the author. I think he's a great author. I read Quintessential Quintuplets and loved it. The mystery there and the sort of mystery spy stuff here in Ranger Reject is really good. Yeah, super excited to read this week to week.
Have you seen Community?
Yes, not all of it, but I've seen it.
So there's this episode, which is like a kind of like a backstab betrayal episode, where the dean just partners with everyone. in a plot to like one character wanted like to get back at another character, and he just double teams with like backstabs and betrays everyone. And at the end, like they all kind of work to like backstab him. It's like, and they say, it's like, if you just ally yourself with everyone, you're not allying with anyone at all. Like you're just doing stuff. And that's what D is. He just allies with everyone. Everyone tries to use him as a tool, and he does the improv yes and to every single person that talks to him. He's a complete moron. And that's our spy for the spy series, by the way, D, who just does shit. I love it.
It's more. He's so fun. What was the spy spoof movie with Steve Carell in it? Do you remember that from like 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah. Why am I not remembering?
I can't remember the name of it, but
the one with the vaults. I'm forgetting.
I'm just gonna Google it. It's gonna show up. Get Smart.
Get Smart. Yeah.
This is the main character is a healthy scoop of Get Smart, which is
incompetent spy.
He is an incompetent spy, but I think the other thing that makes the story work so well is that he's doing stuff, right? This is a character with agency and proactivity, right? I mean, he killed Red, he joined the Rangers, he did all this stuff. But at the same time, a lot of stuff just kind of happens around him that he gets to experience. And I think that is a cool and like a really kind of like matured, like an aged, mature way of writing, where instead of just, the main character doesn't know anything, and so the reader is placed in their point of view, and we're learning and experiencing along with the main character, as opposed to the main character is part of the world and we're watching them do stuff, blah, blah, blah. This is a cool, really well-written balance between, well, the main character is an idiot and he doesn't know everything, and so we learn along with him, and there's also stuff that just kind of happens around him, like the, assumedly, even if this invader didn't exist, if D didn't exist, the invader rights would still have done all this stuff. Maybe everything goes the same. Maybe it's slightly different. Who knows? Green Battalion still would have done all this stuff. I don't know. It's just a really well balanced story in a way that the main character is actively participating in the story, but also the story moves on its own without the main character pushing. The main character isn't pushing every single plot forward all the time. They aren't that core. Let's compare to something like One Piece, right? Like One Piece, you get to see what's happening on other islands, what's happening with the red hair pirates or the Blackbeard pirates, right? They do things without the Straw Hat Pirates being involved in them, and that makes the story and the world feel more alive. And I think Ranger Reject does that really well too.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just solid world building, right?
Yeah, world building, writing, it's all good. Yeah. This is a great series. Super excited. We should probably come back to this in like maybe just like a month or two, whenever this is resolved or when some big reveal happens. My guess is this is going to come to a head pretty soon. Well, okay, what are we on, 98 or 80, 89? So
I don't know.
We'll come back for chapter 100. How about that? That should be about 3 months from now. We'll definitely check in on chapter 100, Ranger Reject, if we don't check in before then. But and I love the way the chapter ended, because all this big stuff happens between all these the executives and the Rangers. In the end, it comes back to D, and he's out there just going, "Show yourself, fight me. I'm an invader. I don't know what's going to happen here."
I don't even know what his motivation to do that is.
Yeah, and that's what makes me, again, this is a great sort of pacing ending page, because I'm wondering, like, what's going to happen? Are they going to show up? Is he going to be left out? Why is he doing this? Assumedly, all of that will be explained in the next chapter, but it really makes me want to read the next chapter, which is like why it's such a good way to end the chapter. If the chapter had ended, a page before with the reveal of the executives, which I don't have on here, if it had just ended with that, it would have been like, ooh, executives, cool, dark. Wonder what happens next. But this is starting a new ball rolling down the hill, a new plot thread, kind of. So I've mentioned this in the past, but this is the way you should end your manga chapters if you're a writer, if you're listening. Always try to end with the start of a new thing that is also kind of a carryover from an old thing. That way you've got forward momentum, and people say, oh, I want to know what's happening next, because it's exciting and it's about to build momentum, or it's building momentum. or it's about to drop, right? So this is a great end to the chapter.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a flaw the series had, back when we thought it was flawed but had potential, is that all of the side characters were introduced way too quickly, so we didn't know any of them. I think it established very likable side characters now. I think Green Ranger,
Yeah,
JFC, Hisui,
Hisui. Yeah, I
those
really like
yeah,
Hisui. I really like Green Ranger.
Usabeko is interesting. Like all of the side characters in this current arc have been interesting. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
we're getting little flashes of some of the other side characters they met when they introduced too many of them. So I'm not as down on that arc anymore because those characters stayed important. They weren't just kind of introduced and thrown away. A
I
lot.
think it still sucked a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah. Anything else about Ranger Reject?
No.
Cool. That's it for manga this week. Let's do one more thing. What you're reading something else I want to talk about? This is The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the title is in reference to yet because I haven't been. I've read like I think 15 chapters of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's Reddit sweetheart. They seem to love it. Every thread gets like a
I'd
fast
say
plus
I've
up
seen
of
this. I've seen this a lot on Twitter and a lot on Reddit. So I'm curious.
I think it's good, but it also has a lot of cliche tropes that I don't
Mm-hmm.
like. But I think it's good all in all. I like the writing. I think the characters are interesting, and a lot of good romances explore character insecurities, and this does that in spades.
Yeah.
Um, the dude has like such a massive, I, I, I guess inferiority complex. He looks like scary. It's like the owners of his complex in the manga, so people don't treat him fairly because he just looks like a scumbag or a thug or
Right. Yeah. It's
whatever.
the same. I don't know if you can see my shirt. Wait, where is it? I'm wearing my Toradora shirt. It's the same
Oh
same plot
yeah,
point from
exactly.
Toradora, right? The guy looks like a miscreant, so everyone thinks he is, even though he's like
Uh,
the most upstanding guy.
it's the same case here.
Yep.
Except it explores it more than any other series I've seen. Like he's a very nice guy, but he's so incredibly down on himself that other people notice and are like, "Hey, you got to work on that because we don't think that way about it." Like this is
Mm-hmm.
multiple characters tell him it's like, "Hey, we love you. You're hating on yourself right now," and
Yeah.
I think that's interesting because it's like it happens in real life.
Yeah. I mean, I've had friends like that in the past, definitely, who are so insecure that it kind of gets in the way of wanting to do stuff, or oh, go, get us drinks. Oh, I can't. I'm bad at talking to people. Like I've had friends like that in the past, so that's totally understandable for sure.
Yeah. The main girl, it seems like the guy would be the chill one and the girl would be the nervous one. The
From
main
this
girl
picture, especially.
from this picture, right? Yeah. No, the girl is incredibly positive, determined, and like I don't know, she's cool. She's a cool person. Yeah, she's just like a really understanding and uh like every single dramatic moment, her reaction is like, okay, let's talk about it. And I'm sure it's not as bad as you think it is. Regardless of which character like is talking to her. She's just a cool character. And I
Mm-hmm.
I don't think her design really reflects that on a surface level. She seems like the timid shoujo protagonist type.
Right. Yeah.
I think she's a good character. She's probably the best character in that manga so far. Uh, in my opinion, it's like a 7 out of 10 from
Cool.
what I've
Yeah.
read. But I think it probably gets better since Reddit loves it so much. So I'll keep reading.
Yeah, I'm curious to check it out. This seems like it's up my alley of, sort of just comfy romance, deep character exploration. That's
I think you'd like it.
that's
Yeah.
definitely up my jam. So yeah, I'm curious to check this one out when I have some free time. Anything
Yeah.
else on
Yeah. I was gonna put this as my discussion, but I put the shit post there instead, and I talk more about this in my one more thing.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
I mean, when you get to the
Great
current
place.
chapter, let's talk about it. Then we can talk about the most recent chapter of it. But
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds
cool.
good. How about you, Bruce? What do you got
Mine is big. I built a new computer. There it is on the table.
going on? Okay.
It's what are the specs? i7 13700KF, GeForce 4070 Ti. Yeah, it's a big boy compared to my old thing. I upgraded from a 1070 Ti and a 9600K, so I'm 4 generations newer processor, 3 generations newer graphics card. Everything else generations newer. I went from DDR3 to DDR4, I think. Yeah, this thing is a beast. Let me give you an example. Doing video rendering, I use After Effects and Premiere Pro. So in After Effects, I have about a 3.5-minute clip I'm working with right now of various effects and things, doing manga for my next video. When I rendered that on my old computer, rendering the whole 3.5 minutes would take somewhere in the range of like 8 to 10 minutes in After Effects. I would render like a 30-second part of it. That 30 seconds would take me like 4 minutes almost, because it was like more intensive. But anyways, start this up, render it once. Okay, it goes from 4 minutes down to like 2.5 minutes. Hey, that's pretty good. Now that it had cached all those things, I like made a change and re-rendered it, and it rendered those 30 seconds in like 8 seconds.
Wow.
So yeah, this is something, and I had rendered multiple times previously, so 4 minutes to render 30 seconds down to like 8 seconds. And the Premiere Pro, which is a video editor, that one is even crazier. So Premiere Pro, I think, doesn't have quite the same sort of caching that After Effects does. I'm rendering my sort of full 3.5 minute video that I have right now, which will eventually be longer. It renders 3.5 minutes of video. That's full audio, all effects, at 1080. It renders that in like 20 seconds. It renders 3.5 minutes of video in 20 seconds, which is insane.
Yeah, not bad.
And what this
did you build this thing, or
I built it? Yeah, I built it.
Build?
I built it with the help of my roommates and my friends. So shout out to them. But yeah, I mean, it's super well set up. It cost me a ton of fucking money, but this should last me 4 or 5 years. So I'm pretty happy with it, and super happy that, I mean, one thing that just increases the sort of workflow of me being able to edit videos and do stuff is, one thing with the podcast specifically is, on my old system, I could not stream and record at the same time. I got lag the couple times I tried to do that. Now, I am streaming and recording, and I went to YouTube and checked. We're all good. I'm doing both of those. So what that should mean is that I can get better quality video, because I don't have to go and download from YouTube, and I can upload tonight, essentially. The podcast can go up after it's recorded the same day or a day later. Audio and all that jazz can just go up because I can record locally. The other thing is, now when I'm video editing, you're working on a smaller section of the screen to preview, because there's all your tools and your timeline and stuff. And that preview doesn't always render everything sort of full screen. So being able to just go, crap, I need to see what that effect looks like full screen. I can just hit render, and it's done in less than a minute, and then I can go watch it, and I get right back to work. When previously, if I was saying, okay, what I would do is I would work a bunch, and I would render it once at the end of the day, for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it took in After Effects or Premiere, and then I would go and watch it and be like, okay, that's the work I did. I need to go back and make X, Y, and Z changes. But now being able to just like hit render, get a video almost instantly, go watch it, and it's there, and the effect is full, and I can say, oh no, I need to make a change, and I can do that, and I can go back. I also have way more memory. I have M.2 drives in this thing. I have like 3 extra terabytes of storage, because I was running short on storage for all the videos and the pictures and stuff. So yeah, this is my workhorse, my one desktop now. So hopefully it keeps up. I think it has so far, and it has very much impressed me. So I think it's going to be great. I downloaded Cyberpunk, because that game did not work on my old system, and I literally put everything on either ultra high, or I think there's a couple things that are ranked like insane or crazy or something like that. Everything high, ray tracing on, DLSS 3. It ran like 80 FPS, 80 to 120 FPS, like insane. The 4070 Ti is an insane card. So,
hey, well, sweet, you can finally play Fortnite.
Yeah, I can actually finally render fully Minecraft. That's actually one of the hardest things to play fully.
So some people do just buy crazy PCs and play Minecraft a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, and to be honest, rendering tons of blocks or whatever in Minecraft is pretty hard. But yeah, that's been my weekend and last couple of weeks. I got the bonus from work, so I spent it all here, recovering financially from this. But it's set, it's good, it's done. I don't need anything else. I might buy a little bit of RAM in a year to upgrade. I have 32. I don't know if I necessarily need more, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, having 64 isn't going to help me very much, but, sometimes you just want to spend $80 and throw it at your computer, so.
Well, sweet.
Cool. With that, thanks for watching and or listening, everybody. We appreciate you coming and hanging out with us, talk about manga. Don't forget, if you enjoy the show, giving us more eyes and ears is a great way to support us. Click like, subscribe, go to the YouTube channels, White, Gray, Black, WGB Manga Podcast, both of those. Whatever platform you're using, click the bell, click the check mark, click the thumbs up, whatever it looks like there. If you want to support us more directly, don't forget about the Patreon, patreon.com/WGB Manga. Check me out on Twitter at WGB Manga. And as always, thank you so much for being with us.
Catch you later.
Don't forget to read more manga.